A very good day to everyone. Today we will present about gear. So we have the first one. What is a gear? So a gear is basically a wheel with a disc on its outer edge, and it will rotate on a central axis. And the teeth of one gear will mesh and engage the teeth of another gear, which will result in power transmission. So what exactly is a power transmission? Power transmission is the movement of energy from its place of generation to a location where it is applied to perform useful work. And then the next one we have, what does a gear do? A gear will change the rate of rotation of a machinery shaft and change the direction of a power source and able to convert rotary motion to linear motion. Then next we'll move on to the gear application. The first one is the most common type of gear, which is the spur gear. Spur gear is usually used for the clocks, the electrical screwdriver, household appliances such as blender and washing machine, the railway train and slow-speed vehicles such as the bicycle, and the image is the gear for the blender. And then the next one we have the helical gear. The helical gear is usually for the heavy load application and the transmission gearbox. The image below is the gear for the transmission gearbox. And the last one we have the bevel gear. The bevel gear is used for the power plant, differential gearbox, main mechanism of hand drill and the planer. And the image is the gear for the hand drill. Next, we will move on to the specification of gear. So the first one we have the specification for the spur gear. And the next one we have the specification for the helical gear. And the last one we have the specification for the bevel gear. That's all from me.
Type of gear. Spur gear are the most easily visualized common gear that transmit motion between two parallel shafts. Since the two surfaces of the gear are parallel to the axis of the mounted shaft, there is no thrust force generated in the axial direction. Advantage for this gear is they offer constant velocity ratio, highly reliable, simply easier to design and manufacture. Disadvantage is slow speed gear. Gear T experience a large amount of stress, cannot transfer power between non-parallel shafts. Second type of gear is helical gear, are one type of cylindrical gear which centered to track. Compared to the spur gear, they have a larger contact ratio and excel in quietness and less vibration and able to transmit larger force. A pair of helical gear has the same helix angle, but the helix hand is opposite. Advantage for this gear is the angle T engage more gradually than do spur gear. T causes them to run more smoothly and quietly. Highly durable and are ideal for high load application. Can transmit motion and power between either parallel or right angle shaft. Disadvantage is resultant thrust along the axis of the gear. Efficiency of helical gear is less and generate more heat and power less. Third type of gear is bevel gear. A gear where the axis of the two shafts intersect and two bearing face of the gear themselves are conically shaped. Bevel gear are most often mounted on shafts that are 90 degrees apart but can be designed to work at other angles as well. The pitch surface of bevel gear is cone. Advantage is gear make it possible to change the operating angle. Disadvantage is the shaft bearing must be capable of supporting significant force. Analysis of gear. A common normal to the tooth profile at their point of contact must in all position of the contacting T pass toward a fixed point of the line of central called the pitch point. Any two curve or profile engaging each other to satisfying the law of gearing are conjugate curve.
Now we move to discussion and conclusion.
First, gear are mechanical components that transmit rotation and power from one shaft to another. Second, if each shaft possesses appropriately shaped projection equally spaced between the teeth of the other shaft. Next, there are many ways to transmit rotation and power from one shaft to another. For example, rolling friction, wrapping transmission, and more. In the designing process, it is common to decide the layout of the two shafts before choosing the gear type. However, designers should consider that the cost of gear varies by the shaft layout as below. First, gear for parallel shaft, gear for interesting shaft, gear for skew shaft. And that's all from all of us. Thank you.